The Yoga Sutras provide a comprehensive guide to meditation, breath control, and samadhi. This series is about how to use the Yoga Sutras in your mindfulness practice.
Today, I'm going to be talking about chapter 1 and 3 verses in chapter 1, verses 2, 3, and 4. And the reason I'm talking about the Yoga Sutras is that really it is the earliest book on meditation, dating back more than 2,000 years. And with oral traditions that preceded that by kind of a long time. Nobody has any idea. Uh, and the goals of yoga, according to Patanjali, are the progressive settling of the mind into silence. And this sounds like the exact same goals of what we're trying to do in meditation. The other reason is that despite 2,000 years of human cultural and scientific advancement at our internal human level, we haven't changed so much. And we are so much the same that Patanjali's recommendations to his students 2,000 years ago are still relevant today. The first chapter is Samadhi Paja. And this chapter is about spiritual absorption. You know, what you're already finding for yourself, Doug. And this chapter describes the result of practice. And in these 3 important verses, 1.2, yoga is stilling the fluctuations of the mind. That sounds like what I want to do. 1.3 says, then in a state of yoga, the seer rests in its true nature. And 1.4 says, otherwise, when not in yoga, one remains identified with the fluctuating thought waves. So, how can we use this to guide our practice? The second verse describes what we aim at in our mindfulness practice, the stilling of the wandering mind. We still the wandering mind by learning to focus. We use the feel of our breath, the focus on body sensations as a primary technique. This approach is fully supported by contemporary brain science, which has shown that the normal mind state, the default network, filled with self-referential thoughts, what the Buddhists call the monkey mind, this is stilled by focus on body sensation. The focus in meditation leads to actual changes in our brains. As we sleep, the brain reinforces the brain parts that were most used during the day. This is our brain's basic plasticity that adapts our brains to our activities. We accelerate this plasticity by our meditative focus. The greater is the meditative focus, then the greater this plasticity process happens. As a side benefit, if you will, is the mind the still mind brings us to a greater sense of inner peace and calm. I think the secondary benefit is for most of us the primary thing we're looking for. The sutra goes on to say in verse 3, talks about the inner progression that we get with the still mind. The still mind lets us see what is behind the mind, if you will, covered up by its incessant activity. When the water in the lake is still, you can see into the depths. That's what we want. That's the way that deep knowledge and real change in our lives becomes possible. When this becomes a deeper understanding into our own nature, we start to see that when we are not practicing, then we identify with the wanderings of the mind, and this brings agitation, stress, and suffering. Seeing this about your mind provides a great incentive for practice. You have learned the difference between living with a still mind versus living with an agitated one. You know the difference. And when you know this, you naturally choose the still mind over the agitated mind again and again. So that's how the Yoga Sutra begins and what it has to say for us. What yoga is about is how to create a still mind. And when you see the still mind, you're able to see yourself more clearly. And when you start to know the still mind, then you're not as satisfied as you used to be with the mentally agitated mind.
You want deeper meditation, more peace, more happiness. Subscribe now to continue to find ways to get more from your meditation.